We've got a 03 Chrysler 300, and the customer, the previous owner, I guess, because the customer just got it. They hit one of those parking cinder blocks, and they just kept on going right over it. So the subframe, like from the front's like all dented in and shit. And when they drive it, the car pulls to the right really hard. So this upper ball joint is nice and tight. But down here is a different story. That ball joint shot. So is this one. It's gonna need new tie rods, and then we're getting 2 new lower control arms, which I know you see how much that one moves over there. So I know this is not a lower control arm. Only one of them is considered a control arm. I forget the name of the other one, but you get the idea. So yep, easy peasy. And yep. It's a good thing we got new parts. Now some of you may remember this Saturn 2002 SL1. It actually used to belong to my cousin. But guess who owns it now? Yep, I bought it. So, yeah, we're just checking out a few problems here. Right here, I'm checking the coolant system because it's always low on coolant. And there's actually no heat blowing out the dash. It takes forever to warm up. I got a good idea on what's going on with it. But, you know, it doesn't hurt to do a pressure check on the coolant system. But one thing is, she recently had her serpentine belt break, and I told her to, whoever's going to fix it, to make sure that they fix the problem, because belts don't just break for no reason. So, of course, they just slapped a new belt on it and sent her on her way. But I thought I'd take it off and inspect, and sure enough, here goes the belt tensioner. And this takes a lot of force just to spin it. As you can see. 2003 Mustang. I was pulling it into the garage, and I noticed that the front end felt a little bit weird. Whenever you hit a bump, the front end felt shaky. So right now I have, as you can see, the floor jack supporting the lower control arm. But once I release it, keep an eye on the bushing right there for lower control arm. Yeah, so that bushing is no good. It's completely shot. And welcome back. Here we have the Milwaukee mid-torque impact gun, which is capable of about 600 foot-pounds in reverse. And we're going to try to remove the infamous Honda crank bolt. Now keep in mind that this vehicle has had the timing belt replaced at one point, so it's hard to say if the bolt was ever torqued down properly. But just keep that in mind. Okay, so here we have a perfect example of rust jacking. As you can see, the rotor looks all rusty, crusty, despite the car being driven around. So something's got to be going on here. Well, the slide pins move perfectly fine. The piston on the caliper works fine. Don't worry, it's not hanging. It's got the support from the emergency brake, so I'm not worried about it. But what's going on here is the pads, they're completely stuck in place and they will not move at all. So no matter how much the piston pushes on them, they won't make contact with the rotor. Ideally, you would want to replace the brakes here, but we just don't have it in the budget. The car has some other major issues that need to get fixed first. So I'm just going to try to address this and get all this stuff working and free it up. And then someday we'll come back and replace the brakes. Yeah, these things don't want to come out. Okay, so here's where we're at. I got well, first of all, I cleaned all the rust off, so as you can see, the pads now move freely without a problem. So that's all done. We got new brake hardware. It came with new boots for slide pins, so why not? I took the rotor off and cleaned the back side of the hat, cleaned the front side, cleaned the hub. I put a little bit of anti-seize on the hub, cleaned the front of the hat and both sides of the disc rotor where the pad's going to make contact with the rotor. It's not perfect, but at least the back brakes are going to be working now. So the best way I could figure out on how to get the oil out of there is to use my vacuum pump. So this is crazy. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the other 3 coils out, and if there's any oil in there, go ahead and clean it out, and we know what repair needs to be done next. So we got a 2003 Mustang. The wipers don't work. Customer says they were working a few days ago and they just stopped all of a sudden. So here I got my test light. I already checked the grounds. Now that's low setting. Now let's switch over to this other pin. And let's see if that's making good contact. Now we're going to put it on high. And boom. Turn high off. And it works. So, it's got a bad motor. Okay, now we have the replacement motor. So it's off right now. Turn the switch to the on, intermittent. There it goes. So let's go ahead and put it on high. That's off. And once again, slow. So I'm in this Oldsmobile Alero one more time, the one I just fixed that coolant hose on. Now that was yesterday. Okay, so yesterday I turned it on after I was done with the repair, and the engine just started shaking like crazy. It's buckling. We had lean codes on the scanner. I checked the upstream oxygen sensor, and it was almost like a dead sensor. It really wasn't responding. Okay, so I looked at it for a little while. I told the customer that it is unfortunate, but it seems like the upstream oxygen sensor is bad. We're going to have to change it. They gave me the green light. I went ahead, I picked up the part today. It's next day now, okay? So I picked up the new part, and I got it in the garage now, but now I'm looking at everything, and the car is perfectly fine. Everything's working perfectly fine. So what I'm thinking was, okay, so here's what happened. That coolant leak that we had, as it was spraying coolant out, guess what was right next to it? The upstream oxygen sensor. So it was just dumping all that antifreeze onto the sensor. And I think that's what was making the sensor act crazy yesterday. And now that the car's been through a few heat cycles and it's kind of burned off all that coolant, it was just, showering the upstream oxygen sensor. The car's running fine. Absolutely fine. I've been in here for a while and I cannot get it to act up. So at this point, even though the customer gave me the green light to change the part, I'm not going to change it because it doesn't need it. I think the oxygen sensor was just acting up because it was wet from antifreeze at that moment. Yeah, I don't want to waste your money, or my time. So, yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye on it and go forward, but I don't think it needs the part. Okay, so we have a 04 Mustang here, and the customer complaint is smoke coming out of the front end, the grill. Inside the vehicle, they could smell antifreeze. So as soon as I popped the hood, this was a pretty easy find. You can see that wet right there. Now, I do have the system pressurized. And it looks like there's a small hairline crack right there, right up top. I don't know if I can point to it, but let's see, like right there. So it's just slowly seeping out, and as it builds up pressure and heat and all that stuff, it starts to mist out antifreeze, and that's what the customer's talking about, that they see smoke coming out the front end. So it looks like this Mustang just needs a radiator.